President Biden agreed to meet with GOP senators at the White House after Republicans whined about the supposed lack of bipartisanship and the Democrats' response to the crisis. For more on this, it's time for a closer look. Well, you guys remember when everyone thought the world would just magically snap back to normal once Donald Trump was no longer president and people like me would have to go back to making fun of the Kardashians or the latest fast food shock offering? Well, hold on to your Bacon Club chalupa, Courtney, because just in the last few days, hedge fund vultures have lost billions of dollars thanks to Redditors driving up the stock price of a video game store. Anti-Semitic comments from a far-right member of Congress have surfaced claiming a California wildfire was caused by a secret Jewish space laser, and former President Donald Trump's entire defense team quit en masse after he insisted that they repeat his deranged election fraud lies during his impeachment trial for, what was he charged with again?
The Senate impeachment trial of the former president of the United States who has been impeached for inciting the insurrection at the U.S. Capitol.
Well, if that's the charge, then I hope he doesn't get off. Look, guys, we're going to do it every time someone makes that mistake. So if you don't want the CSI joke, stop making Freudian slips, because the first rule of late night has always been, when you slips, I quips. When I saw that this morning, I tried to text my wife the get off joke, but it turns out she has my number blocked. So then I tried calling her, but she claims it came up as scam likely. Sure, it's an old joke, but I'm doing my best here. I mean, where does she get off? All right, I forced that one. One for you, one for me. What? They're both for me. Also, is there any person less likely to incite an erection than our former president? I mean, if anything, it's the opposite, right? If any teenage boys ever get called to the chalkboard at an inopportune time, just picture this fella and you'll be well in the clear by the time you're filling in equations. The New York Times published a definitive investigation of the 77 days Trump spent spreading the lie that led to the riot, which included truly astonishing details about the length to which Republicans were willing to go to indulge Trump's lies by telling themselves he wasn't serious. According to the Times, Mitch McConnell heeded misplaced assurances from White House aides like Jared Kushner that Mr. Trump would eventually accede to reality. The senator was also under a false impression that the president was only blustering. West Wing officials had conveyed the same message. They would pursue all potential avenues, but recognize they might come up short. Mr. Trump would eventually bow to reality and accept defeat. Why would anyone think Trump would bow to reality? The same dude who thinks Osama bin Laden's death was faked, windmills cause cancer, and Diet Coke is good for you. Of course, McConnell didn't actually think that. These guys all knew what Trump was, and they've been riding the wave hoping it wouldn't crash on the shore, which is apparently what happened to Steve Bannon. You know, Captain Ron, if it was a horror movie. Last thing I remember is getting drunk on a yacht, and then all of a sudden I'm looking up at a lifeguard on the boardwalk in Rehoboth. McConnell thought he could use Trump's delusions and conspiracy theories to motivate the base and hold on to the Senate, and it backfired on him, and now he wants to pretend he had no idea who Trump really was. I guarantee every conversation McConnell and Trump ever had ended with McConnell saying, anyone else, Mr. President, we never met. These guys all thought they could harness the forces they unleashed, but those forces are in no way unique to Trump. They're at the very core of the modern GOP, a fact that has been illustrated by the election of Marjorie Taylor Greene, who sounds like a line of active yoga wear for crazy people, but is actually a freshman congresswoman who has suggested in the past, among other things, that House Speaker Nancy Pelosi should be executed for treason, that school shootings were staged, and that a wildfire in California was caused by a secret Jewish space laser.
Taylor Greene repeats a QAnon conspiracy theory that the fire was set by a powerful laser from space, triggered by a mysterious, wealthy cabal.
She believes it was a Jewish-funded space laser that started the 2018 wildfire, the worst in California history.
Says a lot about these folks that if she just said space laser, then they would have said she's nuts. But make it Jewish space laser and they say, we need her in Washington. These aren't just conspiracy theories. These are the sick delusions of a deeply deranged person, and yet Republicans are either standing firmly behind her or just brushing her beliefs aside like they're some odd little personality quirk.
She's long embraced conspiracy theories like QAnon, voiced support for executing Nancy Pelosi. Is she fit to serve, and should she be on the Education Committee?
Well, that's, first of all, the people of her district elected her, and that should mean a lot.
Given her
I think
history,
it's
is she
really-
fit to serve?
I'm not going to answer that question as to whether she's fit to serve because she believes in something that everybody else does not accept. I reject that, but she's going to stand for re-election. I don't think we ought to punish people from a disciplinary standpoint, a party standpoint, because they think something a little bit different.
A little bit different? She's not a little bit different. That's how you describe a neighbor who has multiple garden gnomes in her front yard. She's a little bit different. But if she has a snowman with human bones for arms, maybe cut her a little less slack. You might remember that Green has also expressed support in the past for the QAnon conspiracy theory, which was also prominent among Trump supporters and the insurrectionists who stormed the Capitol. Just to give you an idea of how unhinged this cult is, here's a former Q follower talking to CNN's Anderson Cooper about it.
Did you at the time believe that high-level Democrats and celebrities were worshiping Satan, drinking the blood of children?
Anderson, I thought you did that. And I would like to apologize for that right now. So I apologize for thinking that you ate babies.
That is quite the apology to have to make to someone's face. Personally, I would have just sent a Fudgy the Whale. Hey, we are gonna put the icing on. We did just want to double check what you gave us. Also, a very, very hard apology to accept. I mean, definitely better that he made the apology than not, but how do you even respond to that? Well, it means a great deal to me that you no longer think that I ate more than one baby. You're back in the wedding party. We're in the midst of several unprecedented crises right now that are causing misery and suffering for millions of Americans. The previous administration badly botched the vaccine rollout. Poverty and child hunger are on the rise. Millions have lost their health insurance, and nearly 500,000 people have died. And one of our two major political parties has become deeply unhinged and detached from reality. And now that same party, a party that just weeks ago tried to overthrow a presidential election, is demanding, along with the compliant media, that Democrats in the Biden administration work with them on a COVID relief plan for the sake of so-called bipartisanship.
I've never been more disappointed about an administration launch, not good or bad, but indifferent. And I almost feel as though they were teasing us into thinking that there'd be an effort to go bipartisan.
You don't want bipartisanship. You want the patina of bipartisanship, but you want to stick it and ram it through. So that's not unity.
There's no reason why Joe Biden can't work with Republicans in Congress for bipartisan legislation if he's willing to push Bernie Sanders to the side and work with Republican senators, Republican congressmen.
President Biden has missed a historic opportunity to make good on this pledge to be a president for all Americans and to stand up and say the censorship must stop, the blacklisting must stop. We have to listen to and respect all viewpoints in America.
Ah, yes, famously bipartisan Stephen Miller, the guy who brought together the alt and the right. The only way I can picture him reaching across the aisle is to steal a child's dream and eat it for demon fuel. Man, I was hoping I'd never have to see Stephen Miller's face ever again. If I did, I just assumed he'd be outside my balcony in a thunderstorm wearing a cape. Look, I know it's a favorite obsession of the media, but no one really gives about bipartisanship. People just want someone to make their lives better. If someone shows up at your house with the vaccine and a $2,000 check, you're not going to ask, wait, is Ted Cruz cool with this? Bipartisanship is a fake Beltway obsession that actual people do not care about. It probably ranks lower on voters' list of priorities than renovating the White House tennis pavilion. And thank God someone finally did that. If not for Melania, how would Wilbur Ross and Larry Kudlow have played a game of doubles against Rudy and his dowager's hump? Look, Republicans, instead of whining, you should be thankful you get to deal with Joe Biden, who has way more faith in bipartisanship than I do. That doesn't mean he's going to do everything you want him to do, but it does mean he won't spend his time in office giving campaign rallies where he starts lock 'em up chants, which, as we all know, is the height of bipartisanship. In fact, President Biden is already indulging Republicans in what seems to be a futile and preposterous exercise.
A group of 10 GOP lawmakers is calling on the White House to compromise, urging the president to consider more targeted relief.
The Republican counteroffer reduces the overall cost to $600 billion, down from $1.9 trillion the White House is seeking. It lowers direct payments to Americans from $1,400 to $1,000. It doesn't include a minimum wage increase.
White House Press Secretary Jen Psaki released a statement stating that President Biden has invited these 10 Republican senators to the White House to talk about their counteroffer.
And Republicans, what more do you want than that? Just the fact that he's willing to sit down and listen to you at all is more than you deserve. I know he's getting burned, and you know you're trying to burn him, but he is going to keep holding out hope that we can all get along. That's who he is. Joe's the neighbor who returns the Frisbee when some kids throw it in his yard, and then when they throw it back covered in dog crap and laugh when he picks it up again, he just shakes his head and says, I was once like you. And then the kids yell back, you are nothing like us, old man. And before he can answer, they start circling him in their Schwinns, whooping and hollering until he finally starts getting flustered and yells, hey, enough's enough. And the kids yell back, we decide when it's enough. This is our town now. So then he grabs a stick and he jams it in the wheel of the leader's bike. And that kid tumbles harmlessly into a pile of leaves, stands up, brushes himself off and yells, well, that wasn't very bipartisan. Seriously, Joe, why on earth are you taking anything Susan Collins says seriously? Just send people the checks. No one cares if she's moderately disappointed with the process. You think in lieu of a $2,000 check, voters would be just as happy with a postcard that says, rest assured that Susan Collins participated in the legislative process, was respected, and her opinion was heard. As a result, please accept this $10 gift card to Subway, applicable only to the tuna sandwich. Tuna is not a legally binding term. Republicans ran through a $2 trillion tax cut for the corporations and the wealthy and nearly repealed Obamacare using the same budget reconciliation method they're now whining about. Nothing they say about compromise and bipartisanship should be taken seriously. They've been pulling the same scam for years. You know how I know? Because Democrats have fallen for this trap many times before, including a certain vice president in 2012.
What we need is a Republican Party. Yeah. We need leaders that can control their party. And I think you're going to see the fever break.
Not only did the fever not break, it got worse, probably thanks to that secret Jewish space laser that invented COVID and hacked the election along with Bill Gates and Hugo Chavez. I see you up there, space laser, eating your lox, drinking your Manischewitz. Republicans aren't going to suddenly become reasonable. It didn't happen in 2012. It's not going to happen now. Take a cue from incoming Senate Budget Chairman Bernie Sanders, who was asked on Sunday about the GOP's bad faith call for bipartisanship and immediately brushed it aside.
Is it a mistake for Democrats to consider abandoning bipartisanship negotiations so soon?
Martha, the issue is not, bipartisanship or not. The issue is, are we going to address the incredible set of crises and the pain and the anxiety which is in this country? You know what? I don't care what anybody says. We have got to deal with this pandemic.
First of all, he's right. Second, of course, Bernie doesn't care what anybody says. He has the energy of a grandpa who insists on shoveling the sidewalk in his bathrobe. Grandpa, at least put on some pants. I don't care what anybody says. I'm going out there in my robe and my slippers, and if anybody has a problem with that, then they could talk to the mittens because the face is not listening. Not now, not ever. People need and deserve immediate help. They don't have time for beltway games or bad faith whining about bipartisanship. You know what's actually unifying? Doing popular things like sending out checks and rolling out vaccines during a pandemic and economic crash. That would get people excited. So excited, you could be impeached for
inciting the erection.
Oh, that's my time. On the stage, I guess I better get off. Forced it. This has been a closer look. God's love we deliver cooks and brings over 2 million meals a year to men, women, and children living with HIV, AIDS, cancer, and other serious illnesses, and they need your help now more than ever. If you're watching this online, you can hit the donate button. Stay safe, wash your hands, wear a mask. We love you.